Hey, it's Naftali. Thanks for joining me on the Humans Working Marathon. The title of today's section is Recruiting, Interviewing, and Hiring. So there's a whole bunch I'd like to say about this topic, as I've probably said several times in this video series, but I really do love this topic because I find it's really about people. This is really about people, right? This is really about two people finding each other, kind of in the same way that two romantic partners would find each other. Now, unfortunately, most people don't approach it this way, and I'm going to tell you why I think it makes more sense to approach it this way. When a company goes to hire or recruit new people, what do? They first of all, they take the fire, the real energy of the company, the humanism of the company, if you will, what drove the founder to start the thing in the first place. And they try to compress it down to like a sentence or something that fits nicely on a billboard. And in doing so, they reduce the fire to smoke, essentially, right? They reduce it to something that sounds like every other company. Why? Because they're trying to appeal to what they think people want to hear, as opposed to saying what they're really all about. So that's the first point. Second, I'll say recruiting in general it's about inviting people in, right? It's not about hunting for people that can check off your task list. It's about inviting people in to ride the wave with you, to have really big successes with you and really big failures with you, and to be okay with sharing both of those experiences with you, right? Now, when we view it as just a simple trade, like I'm going to give you some cash if you check off 10 items on my to-do list, you're not really going to find the best people that way. And the reason is not because their skills won't be among the skills of the best people. The reason is because if we want to find the best, we have to look for the best within people, right? We don't have to look for the best people. We have to look for the best within people. So when we interview people, I've said people an awful lot. But anyway, when we interview people, what happens? We need to be able to get out of them what's actually inside of them, which is really like the unknown, right? There's stuff that they know that we don't even know that they know. And if we just ask them a list of questions, they may never get to talk about that stuff that's really inside them. Especially if when we're listening to their answers, we're not actually really listening. We're evaluating what they said to compare it to what we think the right answer should be, right? So often, especially in technical companies, there's like a technical interview where you have to, where the point is to evaluate somebody's level of technical skill. And that's fine, right? I'm not saying that you don't need that, but I'm saying if you actually want to know about somebody's technical skill, a better way of doing it, rather than just asking them a list of hard questions, often, trick questions and stuff like that, is to talk to them as if they were with you or as if they were in your company. And they'll respond in the same way. You'll actually get a pretty good sense of how it's going to be to work with this person. And through that, through asking them about real world situations that come up at your company, or perhaps even some problem you're working on currently that you can't figure out, you're going to get a pretty good idea as to this person's level of technical expertise, their ability to problem solve, their ability to, take different paths through a problem, their ability to stick with a problem until it's finished. You're going to get all kinds of information, but in a real life scenario. And at the same time, you show your vulnerability, right? You show that I don't know everything. Maybe you have a better idea than we do. And when you come from that place, not only do you get a good sense of somebody's skills, you get a good sense of somebody's humanity, and you get to share in humanity. And I tell you, especially if you're in an industry where it's hard to recruit people, and you think that you need to ratchet up the benefits and the perks and all this stuff to attract more people, you don't. I'm telling you definitively, if you connect with people and people feel really listened to and really heard and really they're not the dumbest one at the table just because they happen to be sitting in the seat that says interviewee and you're sitting in the seat called interviewer. If you approach things like that, people are going to fall in love with you and they're not going to care what you have, right? Which is the same thing happens in real life, of course, right? If you can make somebody laugh or really feel, listened to, heard, they don't care if you have a Ferrari. They don't care if, if you're the CEO of a company. They don't care. All that stuff falls away. People want to fall in love with real people. So be a real person. It's that simple. It's really that simple. On a related note, the phone screen. Why do we use this terminology? Right? Why do we start the interviewing process or the attraction process, if you will, with fear-based language, right? Why do we say, hey, I want to make sure, I'm going to put a screen here. I'm not going to let any of that riffraff through. I'm going to make sure you can answer my 10 dumb questions before I'll even let you come to the office. Because I'm important here. We got an important company here. We're not just letting any riffraff through here. What message do you think that sends? And then, again, would you ever fall for this on a date? Now, of course, in a first date, there is a little bit of, getting to know you. Do you like the same things? But you would, imagine a phone screen for a date? Oh, you might have a first date on the phone, but still, it's a bi-directional conversation. It's not a phone screen. What if we approached this process with love instead of fear? Right? What if every interaction, I'm not saying, again, you can't talk on the phone first, but what if it was just an open conversation between, two friends who had never met, and you could just talk openly about whatever and see where it goes? You could ask, hey, what do you think you could contribute to the company? They could ask, I don't know, what do you like working there or don't like? And you could actually be honest as opposed to coming up with some fabricated answer about, they have good benefits or everybody, real nice people here or whatever. People don't want to hear that. People can sense that stuff a mile away. So, I'm asking. It's not a technique. Like I've said that a whole bunch of times here. It's not a technique. I don't want you to copy my list of questions here. I'm saying, why can't we approach things with love? Why can't we approach things trying to find the heart in somebody and allowing them to see our heart the same way we would on a date, hopefully, but still often doesn't happen that way? Wouldn't we be so much further ahead? Right? Wouldn't we, if we really fell in love that way on the front side, wouldn't it be less likely that people are going to leave as soon as they find somebody else or another company that has a better set of features, a better set of benefits, better salary, whatever? Of course. Isn't that a much better basis on which to build a really strong, loyal relationship than one that's just based on like, yeah, you answered the questions right, so we hired you? One thing I've heard about interviewing is, you want to look for a level of grit, right? Or authenticity or passion or integrity. But the thing is, that's all made of thought. Those aren't real things. Those are just perceptions that you have in the moment. Nobody has grit. It's not a thing. That's what you perceive by what they're telling you. And even if it were a thing, what you perceive as grit right now, once you start working with them, you may perceive as an unwillingness to compromise or just being a pain in the ass. So be careful about what you're looking for. Understand that they may not change, right? They're, whatever you call that right now, you might call that grit, and that same exact thing that they're doing 6 months from now, you're going to call something else. You might call something else because you're experiencing you. They haven't changed. It'll look like they've changed to you. I don't know why. She's become really hard to work with. At the interview, he was really just like a solid go-getter kind of guy, but now, he's really hard to work with. Same guy, doing the same thing. You just thought it was attractive at the beginning, and now you don't. I remember reading one of my first spiritual books that I ever read 25 years ago. This woman gives an example of you go on a first date with somebody, and it's like the best time ever, and you're falling in love already, and oh my God, she's like the best person ever alive, and you go out for dinner, and she's eating her chopsticks, or her soup with the chopsticks, and you're like, that's so cute. She eats her soup with chopsticks, and then a few years later, you're breaking up, and you go on one final dinner together, and she's eating her soup with chopsticks, and you say, man, what kind of idiot would eat their soup with chopsticks? How could I even ever dated somebody so stupid? Right? And this happens all the time. But we're convinced every single time that it's the other person that has changed, not here. So with that, I will leave you until the next one. Cheers. Thanks so much.